Welcome to all my
Okay.
fellow metalheads, extreme music lovers, horror enthusiasts, occultists, and backyard belchers to the one and only Mendo Metal Podcast. We're a Mendocino County based podcast focusing on the various metal genres and bands from our neck of the woods and beyond. We're back in your face for another episode. I'm Austin Spence from the band Embryonic Devourment, and with me is my ultra awesome co host, Brian Sticky, to help deliver the goods and all things that are metal shows, graphics, and bookings for the Mendo area. Joining us tonight, we have the band Blind Illusion with Doug Piercy and Mark Biderman. One or the other. We're hoping to have them both here. Blind Illusion will be playing the upcoming Mendo Lake Metal Fest Saturday, June 17th. We're stoked that Blind Illusion agreed to come on for the podcast and share some vision into their band and their take on the style we all love, heavy fucking metal. How you guys doing tonight?
All right. All right.
Nice.
It's just me at the moment. Maybe Mark will show. But
Right on.
yeah, it's all raging and killer. We've been getting ready to tour we're going to do this West Coast tour in support of the Wrath of the Gods album. And we're leaving on Thursday next week to go hit. We're going to Portland and Seattle areas. And there's 3 shows up there booked. And then on the way back down, we're hitting Reading, and then we're playing at the Phoenix Theater in Petaluma.
Right on. Phoenix Theater is an awesome venue.
It's not a major tour, but we're just like doing one show after the other, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, you guys are out there doing it, man. I mean,
Yeah, gotta.
the band Blind Illusion has been around for a long time. I mean, like 45 years, 40
Oh
some
yeah,
years.
Mark started it with with the other guys. The original incarnation of that band was, I think he was still in high school, like 16 years old, and he just basically stayed with the same band. Me personally, I moved around, did several bands, and then like did a lot of stuff with Heathen and that kind of thing.
Nice,
But
nice.
with him, it's been that's his only band, and it's kind of cool to see him hold the flag high after all these years.
Well, yeah,
Wow.
I mean, so like my understanding is that the band itself started like somewhere around like 1978, 1979.
That's correct.
Awesome, awesome. And when did you come into the band?
Um, Mark likes to talk about how he's been trying to get me into the band forever, which is nice and wonderful and fine and dandy. But I've always been pretty busy doing all sorts of different other bands and projects and that kind of madness. And it only became interesting for me when Harold O had joined up in the almost latest carnation of the band, whereby Harold kept saying, "Hey man, you got to check out Mark Biederman. He's doing Blind Illusion again, and we're playing this and that, and here's some videos, and you got to check out the videos. It's like, you're gonna love this. It's like, really, it's the heaviest thing. It's the best thing ever." And I'm like going, "Okay, cool. Well, send me a link." And he goes, "Okay, I'll send you a link. I'll send you a link, and you'll see. It's so heavy. It's the best thing ever." So yeah, I'm a lot more chill than that, but anyway, so I check out the link, and there it is. It's like the song that they were doing called "The Wizard," the Race with the Wizard, and it is. There's all sorts of sections that go in and out of harmonic minor and really interesting scale patterns and things that, I mean, it was actually quite intriguing to hear. And I was like, wow, this is actually really cool. I can get into this. I even grabbed my guitar and started messing around with it and kind of saying, oh, I see what's happening here. It's just like, we can go back and forth here in Phrygian and harmonic minor, blah, blah, blah. And so the next thing I know is they reach out and they say, "Hey man, we're going to play at the Knockout in the city. And so why don't you come down and we're going to practice tomorrow night or something." So I just said, "What the fuck? I'll just do it. I'll just show up and see what happens." I haven't seen Mark in a long time, and we'll go see what's up. So I go down there. Yeah, I got a half stack and PV triple X and some effects, and I go in there and Mark hasn't seen me in years. And it was, everybody's hugging and embracing, and it's fun. And Harold's all out of his mind as always, and really happy that I came down and we just started jamming, and we played that song and played a couple other weird jam things, and it was pretty easy. I mean, the thing with Mark and I is that we've been down the same path musically for so long that we can kind of understand what we're doing pretty easily without even talking about it. You just kind of listen. And
Yeah.
at least for me, I mean, it's really easy. I mean, I always just use my ears and figure out where I am with any song, if I'm improvising or whatever. Anyhow, so that all happened, and we had a really hilarious, fun goofy rehearsal. And then the next night I went out and played 2 songs with them at this little tiny place, dive bar in San Francisco called the Knockout. And that was a lot of fun. And, it's like supposed to be fun. Next thing I know is he calls me up. He goes, dude, we got a problem. We have to play this festival in Europe, and we got like some shows, and we need you to come out and help. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Okay, I'll do it.
Just like that, just going to Europe.
Well, I thought about it, and I thought about everything, and I thought about how Mark's like, he's got to present Blind Illusion properly to the European fans and not just kind of half-ass it,
Yeah.
So I figured if I got involved, I would really help put, set up the backbone of the whole thing and kind of like hold down the fort so he could go crazy and be himself and it wouldn't all fall apart, because he can kind of overreach himself. And, he's quite entertaining, but he really kind of needs a solid band. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to try to support that whole endeavor. And lo and behold, it worked out really great. I mean, long story short, I mean, there's obviously more to that story, but no, we went out and did the European thing. We added some more shows. We got Tom Gears on bass because Harold was involved with DRI. So it was kind of like, get this band together. So it's kind of in a really good shape and in a really good way and shape and form to be able to be presentable on the European stage. So having Tom Gears playing bass really allowed, and having him to work with Eric on drums was a good solid trio format. And then Mark could kind of stand around and fly around and do all sorts of other stuff. Now, of course, Mark likes to play with me and all the harmonies and all that, and it always comes natural. And we had all sorts of stuff we just improvised and winged and made really awesome right away just because we can. I don't know, whatever. So that happened. And it was all successful, and they called us back to play another festival that following spring at KIT. And we added more dates to that, and that's kind of like how I got involved with the band. I mean, it's still
Nice.
We did an EP after that, and then did more touring, and Jesus, it was just been a lot of stuff. And then the pandemic hit, and we decided, okay, it's time to do a new record. So that's when the whole idea for the Wrath of the Gods came about.
How many records got made during pandemic, dudes? Like seriously, pandemic was like, how many records got made during pandemic? Almost like thankful for the pandemic in a sick kind of way.
I know I've been able to lure a couple people into my band, like, hey, we need some help. Next thing you know, it's like they're full-fledged members, after a while, because they've been helping so long, and it's become part of the team.
Well, what was going on? I mean, I already have I had half of an working Pro Tools studio, and Tom kind of wanted to get into that. So we just sort of jumped off the bridge and just said, fuck this, let's do it. And so he went in and got a Pro Tools rig that was very identical to mine. And I gave him Pro Tools 9. And we got a whole bunch of mics together and preamps and just started building the studios up and made 2 studios, one at my place in San Francisco and also in Tom's place downstairs at his place. And he's got a house in Oakland. And so we turned his whole basement into a recording facility. And over at my house, I can do vocals and guitars and guitar overdubs, but I can't do drums. But between the 2 studios, we were able to take our hard drives back and forth and send files back and forth. When we weren't even able to go out, we were still able to work.
Yeah.
And that was kind of amazing how that all came about. But it worked out great, and we have that new record to show for it. So that all happened.
Yeah, and that also makes a big difference when you're in a a home environment. You don't have the pressure of like some engineer, that you've never met, or something like that, watching your every move, and you're able to kind of
hundreds of dollars an hour for studio time.
Well, it's about the money, really. I mean, there's the old model of like beg and cry to some record company, so they give you an advance so that you can go pay all of the money out to a recording studio. Those days are over if you can build your own studio, which is actually quite easy. It's not that difficult to do. I mean, you can do great things with what's available if you're creative and know how to build studios and know construction and how to work with electronics and stuff like that. So that's how we did it. You know, it
Um,
was kind of killer.
so you guys have these studios, and obviously, this is where you guys are going to record this album. My question is, when it comes to the album, how was your approach to writing this album? You guys already have songs that you were already written? Did you guys come together and write songs together? How did you guys creatively come together and make this album?
Um, Mark had some songs already in the can. Some of them we'd written in 2018, 2019. Straight as a Crowbar Flies, The Awakening, Lucifer's Awakening. Those were songs we were already playing on tour. We had a whole bunch of ideas we were working on to try to, we just had ideas. I mean, I have lots of ideas all the time. Mark always has ideas. It's pretty amazing. You have to like hold them down. It's like, not too much, too much all at once. But we just took a bunch of those ideas that we had. Tom had some too, and we just kind of started compiling them all up and putting them together and shooting files back and forth to San Francisco. And I'd come up with some ideas and melodies, and at that time Mark was staying with Tom downstairs, and so they were able to work all the time. And that's kind of how we put it together. And then he would come over here and stay weekends with me, and we would make what we would call song maps, where you have a click that's set up for the song at that tempo, and then we would play like a guide guitar through the whole song. And at that point, it's easy to set up arrangements and design the song structure. Yeah. And he and I would sit together, and that's how we did Wrath of the Gods. That's how we did, Proto Molecule I already had.
Okay.
Let's see.
Tell me a little bit about that song, Proto Molecule, because we've got that on the Mendo Lake Metal Fest compilation CD. Tell me a little bit about that song, and then we'll give it a listen.
Yeah, that song I came up with a little while ago. It was just some ideas. I was probably listening to way too much, harmonic minor Phrygian stuff, or maybe, I like stuff like that. So like,
the weird stuff.
It's just like it's exotic. It's Egyptian. Totally. It's like that kind of thing. I mean, I live for that stuff. I mean, I will actually go looking for Turkish radio stations just to listen to how they do stuff, and they sing like that. Mm-hmm. So it kind of comes natural for me to just always come out looking for those things. But whatever. Anyhow, so I had that one already in the can, and it was really easy just to put that into a click map and pull all the other overdubs out of it, because it was done with a drum machine. Yeah, and once, that song was already established, so it was easy just to show the parts to Andy, and he just knocked out his whole drum line to it, and that was that song. So it was pretty simple to do.
All right. Well, we'll give that song a listen right here.
yeah, how how many releases are you on, or better yet, I mean, how many releases does Blind Illusion have?
Blind Illusion, the most important releases are The Sane Asylum and Wrath of the Gods, I would say, foremost. But then we also did an EP earlier in between when I joined and the Wrath of the Gods in 2019. We did this. It was an EP. Oh, nay, 2018. Sorry, and that's why it's called 2018. Sorry, God, idiot. So yeah, that happened. But before that, there were all sorts of demos that Mark was recording with various formations of the band back in the early 80s, and like the Trilogy of Terror demo, and those have been put together on Manos's Metal on Metal record label. I think that's what it is. It's in Greece, and they just released that with a bunch of other really cool old recordings that he had with Dave White on vocals. And I've lost so many members. I don't even remember all of these. That's a Mark question. I'm just trying to do my best to explain it. But yeah, so I would say those two records are for first and foremost, the Wrath of the Gods and the Sane Asylum, and then there's the EP in the middle, and then there's like this new thing that it's just been relatively recently released, and it's an anthology of a lot of the old demos that's been put out on Manos's label. And yeah, Mark's proud to have that out. I mean, you're sitting on these demos forever, and people want to hear them, so it's kind of cool. So yeah, and we're working on new material now as we speak. Our current format.
All right.
So I heard you guys have worked with Rick from Exodus as well. How did that come about?
Well, Rick and I, we go way back Exodus, that whole thing. I mean, when my first major band, Amble Chorus, we used to play with Exodus back in those days, right? We even before Rick was in the band, and then Rick got in the band, and we all became friends. And they called me up and asked if they could record some demo work at the Amble Chorus studio, which was my little studio. And I had a recording machine and set up down there, and we recorded that whole Turk Street demo downstairs on Turk Street at our rehearsal place. And yeah, that was my first, it was really fun working with those guys. When I knew them from Ruth. Where did I see them first? Probably Ruthie's, but it's a long time ago now. But we all, we got along really great, and it was fun to do all that stuff. And I did a lot of live sound with them. I was their sound engineer guy that went, out on tour and this kind of thing in the early days. And so I've known Rick that long. And then recently there was at that Mendocino Metal Fest, there was, we were trying to make a big extravaganza, and Rick said, "Hey man, I'll come out and play some stuff with you guys. What do you want to do?" And I go, "I don't know, let's play some Exodus songs." So we played Deliver Us to Evil and Then There Were None. And Andy Gallion, who's like a total Tom Hunting fan, he was like super thrilled to be able to jam with Rick and play those songs, and we had a blast. We actually worked real hard to get them down good. And
Lance from Schizo was singing on that. Yeah, it was a great show. Yeah, like that was kind of like that was the highlight of the show. Was getting everybody up on stage and everybody jamming with Lance.
Yeah, it was great.
It was great. It was awesome.
Lance from Schizo came out and nailed the vocals killer, and it was really cool. Everybody kind of pulled together and made it a fun little extra thing, for that whole giant event.
Yeah, Lance has got a really cool ability to be able to, like I've seen him pull off some different voices, even with his Black Sabbath tribute band. And it was like, for a second there, I was watching him play, just thinking, man, this is like, he's just nailing these Master of Reality songs. Like he was hitting the notes and everything perfect, man. It just sounded killer. He's a great front man and knows how to, really impersonate those other kind of voices.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed just like watching him do his stuff. We're old musicians now, and we love watching each other and supporting each other do all this stuff. It's like we're lifers. We got to do this. That's what we do. It's Andy was the one who said that. It really makes sense. So, I mean, you're in it for life.
Well, the Bay Area definitely has a camaraderie amongst the early thrash bands and all this awesome music that came out of San Francisco Bay Area and the early 80s. And to me it's awesome to see a lot of these bands still around and still playing. It's definitely awesome to see Blind Illusion still around and still playing and doing awesome shows. And my question, I guess, that I'm getting to is, where do you kind of see the future of music going in, coming out of the Bay Area and so on and so forth? I mean, what direction do you kind of see it going in, or what would you like to see it doing?
What I'd really like to see is more bands doing, more young bands doing innovative stuff and taking the torch that we are at some point going to have to pass along, and them forging whole new ways and avenues of musical styles and things that are unique. I mean, it's kind of difficult to imagine where they would take it, but then with that said, creativity is boundless. So you never know. Nobody knew that a Stratocaster would be any kind of heavy instrument until like Jimi Hendrix started showing people if you used a heavy fuzz in front of a Marshall stack, you could get massive amounts of feedback and you could go crazy and smash up your amps and all this stuff. And I mean, that's not necessarily musical, but his whole visual image of destruction and madness, with sex appeal and all that. I mean, that no one expected that. And that kind of came out of the woodwork, and this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about breaking down walls. I mean, it's important to not always look at other people and copy what they do. And I mean, it's okay to be influenced, but it really is important to do things. Like, I always try to do things that are different from the other stuff. Like, I spend time looking around for music from all over the world all the time to try to get different influences, because I just can't watch what the neighbors are doing. I mean, it's just too boring. It's the same language.
Yeah.
I don't need to speak that language. I mean, music is it's different, and you can speak it without speaking in some sort of real language. I mean, quarter notes, stuff they do in the Middle East, that's not necessarily as musical as I'd like it, but a lot of the scales are. I mean, I was listening to some stuff from Nepal the other day. That's what I'm talking about. It's like, take it. Where do they have the other stuff?
You can definitely hear, in Blind Illusion's sound, at least your more current sound, that that strive to kind of be different. And the hard thing for me is I can't see where to put you guys as far as genre wise, because you guys are somewhere in between thrash and prog and all these different kind of metals mashed together. You guys have such a unique sound that it's almost like we can't really put you in a genre. You guys just have to be Blind Illusion.
It's cool, man. Yeah, definitely. I even hear a little bit of Ravi Shankar, in some of the solo work, when you're talking about different styles from all over the world. That's
what I'm talking about.
That. Yeah, I catch it. Definitely, man.
I mean, and it's cool. I mean, it doesn't even, so if we want to go back to the idea of what do you see with bands in the, today and upcoming in our future, maybe we can get some young kid who's maybe a descendant from Mongolia or who knows where. They can bring some crazy new instrument into the field and then electrify it, and then put it through some kind of Mesa Boogie amp setup, and then holy shit, that's a whole new sound, and that thing was just never designed to have a vibrato on it or something, and then build one, and then it takes off, just like what happened with Eddie Van Halen's Strats, that Super Strat thing. I mean, that guitar didn't exist until he built it, and then suddenly everybody started building them, and then everybody started playing the same way with the same kind of harmonics and tapping and vibrato, and that's what I'm talking about. It's game-changing stuff. That's totally what I look forward to. I mean, who is going to be the next game changer? That's what I want to see.
I was almost thinking of a drum set where you put the bass drum on a giant snare stand, and then you have two snare drums for your feet with kick pedals hooked up to them. So you're playing it completely backwards. You get all these crazy drum rudiments on the bass drum, and then the snare is your feet.
I'm going to jump in real
Yeah,
quick because we just got the 5 minute notice, so we only got five
yeah.
minutes left. And typically, the way we like to kind of wind down is, you're talking about, new up and coming bands, and we want to see, the young people coming forward and playing and impressing us. My question to you is, what are three bands, in your opinion, three bands that you think we need to keep an eye on, or that we should be listening to right now that are up and coming?
Like in this country.
Anywhere right now, anywhere in this country, in the world, three bands that you can think of that we need to be paying attention to right now.
That's a good one. I'm not really even sure. I'm sort of, there's so much weirdness going on right now, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that are just. I mean, I've been like messing around in Croatia, listening to some of the bands out there, but honestly, they're just listening to too much Western stuff. So like, they're starting to get the same guitar tones, and it's still metal, and the singer is like screaming in Serbo-Croatish, which is epic sounding, very guttural and heavy, and totally different from like Spanish. Like I've heard some really brutal metal out of Chile, and also to some extent from Mexico too.
Mm.
But
Okay.
that's still kind of just deathy, smashy kind of shit. But who's gonna change everything? I don't even know. I mean, it's really great that people are forging ahead. I enjoy listening to metal in different languages. I will say that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's awesome to listen to Randy Blythe use that tone and approach that he does and understand every single word in English. That's pretty cool. It's
Yeah.
interesting to imagine that happening in like in Arabic language or something. That would be amazing. I mean, I would think that if you were to like, I mean, but I don't know of any bands from Iran or from like some crazy band from Iran that would like can't play their music at all because like it's like works of the devil, and Allah will strike them dead, and so they're banned, because everything. I mean, but they have a really heavy message that is in Arabic. But I don't know that band, so we're hypothetically talking about it. I don't have that yet. But I'll tell you this: as soon as I know, I will tell you.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll do another podcast and we'll talk about that band.
That's
I'm
definitely
telling you,
some secretive Iranian stuff right there, man. I mean, that's probably taboo out there.
I mean, I can go back and say, probably one of the hottest young bands right now is Incredulous. They're from Santa Rosa or Sebastopol, where
Yes,
they're from.
indeed.
They're great. They play lots of technical stuff. Their riffing is super tight. They listen. They obviously are practicing to metronomes. They know what they're doing. They're young. That's just here. That's our guys. Come on. What about the guys in Kazakhstan who don't have much of equipment at all?
We got
True.
we got a minute and a half. Give me two more bands real quick.
Oh God, who else? I don't know. I can't think of anything else.
Incredulous is great though, man. They've come up as a subject a few times. That is a killer band.
Yeah, I mean, I like watching Hellfire. From the days when they could hardly play. Going out and absolutely sucking, and now they're doing great. I mean, that was cool.
Hellfire
I
is an
enjoy watching
awesome
them.
band. Awesome band.
There's. Let's see. Let me think. Who else am I listening to all the time? Jesus, I've been listening to a lot of other stuff, not just metal though. I mean, heavy rock. Jesus, I can't think of anything. Damn it.
All right, 1 minute warning.
Nothing groundbreaking. I mean, I'll always keep listening to bands I like from South America. There's a band they're kind of poppy. They're not really metal. They used to be a lot heavier, Rata Blanca, but they're so down pop lane now that it doesn't really work anymore. But their guitar player is excellent, so I pay attention to that.
What's the name of that band? We got like 30 seconds.
That band from Argentina, they're called Rata Blanca.
Ooh, nice.
We'll keep an eye out them. We got to wrap it up. We're about 20 seconds before we're done here. Doug, we want to say thank you. Awesome for coming on and having a chat with us. And,
Thanks, brother.
We will see you June 17th at Freedom Riders MC Club in Lakeport for the Mendo Lake Metal Fest.
Hell yeah. Blind Illusion.
Have a good night, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Yo.